Where were we? Hello, everybody. System Chalk here with, I think, the 14th episode of Lord Stabbe. I think probably the best place to get the authoritative account of which episode you're in is to always check the video or I like to check the tag on it. Anyways, I'm recording this a little bit after the one that I recorded for Wednesday, so I need a quick minute to reacquaint myself with the state of the world. If I recall correctly, my main goal was going to be to get another vault to ransack. We don't have a season of ambitions coming up, so we're reasonably safe to take it. The one drawback is that I have a percussivant, which is going to vanish in 48 seconds. On the other hand, we have a subtle rupture, and we can sacrifice the percussivant itself, which may be the way that I want to handle it. The drawback, of course, is that there's going to be 30 seconds where the hint and the Callagine are sort of waiting for the... Actually, I know how I'm going to handle it. We will resummon the percussivant, but we are only going to need to bring the hint and the... Obviously, we already have two summons. So the hint and the Callagine are the obvious choices to bring in. The percussivant gets resummoned, and they can join the festivities later. Okay, so we are heading to the land beyond the forest, if I recall correctly. Yep. So we will investigate this. One of the reasons why I kept the Explorer verb open was just to make sure that I kind of accounted for all of my summons. The hint in particular is going to be the one that creates a little difficulty, just because it leaves Lantern when it vanishes, and so that can turn into fascination. So you don't want to lose hint in an inopportune time. Those stories that have been forbidden are the ones most apt for us to read. So maybe as a broader point of view, it's clear that in order to bring in the renegades, I'm going to need an item. Now, I'm not quite ready to give up Betty's blade, but and a meteoric bullet isn't strong enough for me to accomplish what I'm looking to do. So heading into the vaults, getting some more high intensity edge items is really what I want to be doing. Also being able to get the materials for painting, but easier said than done. I should also double check. It's 2 edge for the Iron Spintrea, so not very powerful. But yeah, so it's fair to say that I was going to be going to these expeditions anyway. I'm not really changing my path all that much, but because we've got a whole bunch of renegades running around, it does slow our progress quite a bit because I don't like having all of these vaults lying around on the table. I think I'm going to leave the dream slot open just so that I can heal up right away. We sadly do not have any vitality. Actually, one thing I might want to consider, given that we have another season of sickness coming up, I might want to let the percussivant decay on its own, and then we just use the subtle rupture to summon a brand new one. That'll give me, vitality may not convert fast enough. We'll see. All right, read the Gospel of Zacchaeus. The book includes a description of a rite which can be used to raise a corpse to half-life in memory of he who bled for the wood. It requires a corpse and sufficient power. The author suggests an invocation of winter lore and an assistant touched by the powers of the wood. So I have the Consent of Wounds, which we had before, if I recall correctly, but I believe we upgraded things to get to the Formula of Phidian. And we have the Rite of the Mother's Mercy, which is in fact a new ritual for us. So let's think about where we want to go. Plenty of works to translate. Let's translate how the end will begin. We may want to make a careful decision in terms of when we kind of take the wrapper off of that thing. So a book of bleak prophecy. On the other hand, though, if you're going to get hit by something, you might as well sort of get it out of the way. So lock the study door, the work begins. All right, the mirror is repaired. It shines again as it did once before. So we're going to take a second here, and we'll just have the Callagine and Hint have a chat with each other. So they're going to be a little late for the expedition, but nothing too catastrophic. Okay, so we do have another sickness coming up. So in this case here, I think ditching the percussivant might be the right call. It's clear that I'm going to have to spend to heal, so we'll just get that out of the way. I've done some good. My patients are quieter than when I began. So let's take a second here and get the summoning in, because we're not trying to keep the percussive. Well, actually, there is one thing I can do to keep the percussive. Like how that works? So the nice side effect of that is that if it tries to run away, we can summon it by sacrificing the existing percussive. In fact, I might even be able to get away with that by using things like fleeting reminiscence and such. I need to remember exactly what my power is for certain areas, but... And Season of Suspicion coming up, so we are probably going to wind up getting hit with that notoriety. I don't see... The one thing I could try and do is to, hit the Weary Detective, but that's a little overkill, to be honest. Right, the Kuznetsov endowment. Prince Kuznetsov gave one-fourth part of his blood-soaked fortune to the establishment of a department of eschatology at his provincial university. The staff have grown peculiar now, but the buildings fester in a freezing swamp. But some of Kuznetsov's bequest, perhaps, was spent on treasures. So here we just got to wait for the right summons. Normally here I would kind of be stacking up a bunch of expeditions, but I've kind of explained to death why I don't do that right now. Okay, I prepared the text for study. I'm not 100% sure this is the right time for me to do it, but let's run with it. A prophecy of the Wars of the Roads recorded in the subcontinent in the days before the Great Hooded Princes. In the foretold war, the children of the Leashed Flame march on the cities of the continent, but the enactors of Solar Law and the Triple Sisterhood join forces to hold them back at tremendous cost. So if I can do something to generate a little contentment, that would be ideal, but how we do that is a whole other question. So we're going to take the Kalegin and hint to the Kuznetsov endowment. They may not be the right choices for this expedition, but it's what I've got available. The journey to the endowment buildings is not long, but the ground is difficult. We have sent 3 times for permission to visit and received a less friendly answer each time. No doubt the staff will attempt to forbid our entry. So the Kalegin's really going to do a lot of work for us here. Probably Forge to cross over the swamp, and then Moth to deceive the Watchers. So there is a question as to whether or not it's worth even... sending a heart follower to try and clear the reputation. I think I'll just leave it. All right, so there's my affliction. We may be able to save a little something with the... okay, the sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. I think I am going to see how the percussive turns out before I mess around with that. So let's go back to the stag door. This is kind of in prep in case we need influence again. So we will use reason to banish it, and then we'll just summon it again by sacrificing the percussive. I don't really have the option to wait for whatever comes out of the dream because it's only 15 seconds before it goes away. Okay, I should probably read a couple of details here. So, pronounce the words of dismissal, seal the circle tight, erase every trace. I've given my agents the opportunity to serve. Let's hope it ends well for us. And, okay, yeah, we've already done that. So I'm going to need some extra money. We've got treacherous ground to start off with. I think I'm going to put the funds in just because I really want to lock that up before it goes away for rent. So, Forge or Lantern. We're actually good with both, so maybe we want to consider what's coming up next. There's the Watchers, mortals, perhaps even ordinary mortals, but quite a number of them. They can be fought, seduced, or deceived. And then the Hidden Door. So definitely Lantern follower would be the right call here. Indifferent as to what we do with the Watchers, but Lantern will take care of 2 of the objectives, and so it's better use of my resources. Also, I've got 3 of them, so if I lose one, it's not quite as devastating. It's gone. We are safe. So here's the Trembling Airs. This is kind of what I was waiting on. And now we will do, I think the Rite of the Beast division will cover what I need. So there's our victim. Oh, well, we need influence. So if I just tried it with a knot, yep, that's sufficient. So the percussivant, merciless and merry, heart will bring it, edge will constrain it. Now, of course, we lose the percussivant outright if this one fails as well. It feels like we've had a unusually high number of rebellious summons, but I'm not necessarily going to complain too loudly about it. So in that battle between the imperishable legions and the leashed flame, the legions will perish and the flame will be unleashed. So we have Mysteries of Force, our first highest level highest level lore. This will also help in terms of recruitment, so good news all around. The Colonel and the Lionsmith are gods who were flesh, but the Wolf Divided is a god who was blood. Cunning, strength, and agony are the three roots of victory, and here is their secret doctrine. So I'd say that's a well-earned, but that's a dread I was willing to take on. So let's just take a quick second here. I believe it said 21 influence. Let's maybe just double check that. So we'll start with Spencer. Yeah, the 21st degree. So I could bring in mystery here. So I could, for instance, use the meteoric bullet. Oh, all right. This one might join me if I can master the aspect of our cult to the 21st degree. You can recruit a troublemaker, even one of a different persuasion, if you provide enough power, but you must include at least one tool as a gift to the independent. So that's the tool. Oh, but it's only 18th degree, right, because it's 14. So in this case here, I'd really have to give up Betty's Blade, which I'm not ready to do. Okay, so what I am curious about though is Connie. Yeah, so no, this one has not forgotten what occurred between us. Perhaps someday, if I do them no further harm, their feelings might change. Interesting. So I got to do something to get rid of the resentment. I think I'm quite ready to talk to Connie on my own, but I'm just trying to think of some of the ways that I might be able to smooth things over. I don't know. I'll have a think about it. I mean, again, eliminating Connie is not the end of the world. I think with assassins, I can produce some pretty devastating snares, but good to know where I stand. All right, so we'll do the twin. Honestly, the two tantras doesn't really matter which order I do them in because we can't get any higher for edgelore, and we've already got a high level knock lore. But I still want to translate it, obviously. So the twin serpent tantra, a tantra shrouded in particular obscurity. Trying to remember why I'm keeping the talk verb open again. Call upon the watchman who illuminates. The watchman will lend virtue to our lamps, that they will show us the perils to avoid. Probably. So let's add, I'm going to add Pope Clifton, but I believe we can get a higher level Forgotten Chronicle from the Painted River, and if we get a Fascination, that just helps us with the dread. Nope, erudition. The Painted River runs from a great chamber near the White Door, far through the Mansus, to its far edge where it enters a painted delta of far cloud. I voyaged half its length last night with a stern-faced captain beneath a rust-red sail. As the clouds rose before us, the sailors raised a yearning shanty and close-hauled the sails to best use the painted wind, and all the while the captain and I discoursed of the secrets of the House of the Sun. So Trembling Airs goes away in 30 seconds. We've got really more than enough time to... I mean, what we could do is we could go back to the dream slot and it would only be 30 seconds, but I do kind of want to get rid of the affliction. And we do have a Season of Despair coming up. So out of caution, I think I'm just going to use that in a recruitment. This one is ready. Right. The watchman will clear our sight so that we can almost certainly pass without error. I am safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they found no new clues. So I got lucky that the weary detective sort of dropped the ball on the case. We'll send off one of my heart followers to clean up the mess. Generally, we're doing all right. Again, somewhat slow progress, and I'm very curious. Safe across treacherous ground. We're mud splattered, thorn scratched, but we made it through. I'm a little curious as to how I'm going to, make good time on the remaining expeditions, but before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. First the thump, the rattling cry of the ceremonies it attends in the wood. Now here it is, shouldering its way through the world's skin like a clawed and ruthless uncle or a headless flapping bear. So we can get rid of the affliction now. We'll use the vitality. All I need now is time. And then we need to wait for this event to finish, but obviously we'll choose violence on the watchers now because the percussagant's going to pull our edge over. I prepared the text for study. All right, just before the outbreak of the Great War, Alexander Sparrow, almost certainly a pseudonym, published leaflets claiming the influence of the snake princes on world affairs. The text, called the Twin Serpent Tantra, was his primary inspiration. So this one, fairly straightforward. I guess at this point, if you haven't, this is one of the cases where I actually think, it's one of the cases where I think I talked in the previous episode how you don't necessarily the game doesn't necessarily make the explicit link between two concepts in some cases. So I think a good example of this would be snakes and knock. When you get knock influence, you sort of hear about snakes coming out. When you when you read something like the Twin Serpent Tantra, you've got leaflets about the influence of the snake princes. There's plenty of references to snakes and knock, but I don't think at any point, at no point does it actually do the connection. It just happens to be that whenever you're talking about knock, snakes kind of seem to be around the place. And that's one of the ways where it does sometimes create, because I do tend to really like sort of working through and almost brute forcing my way to understanding on a couple of subjects. And this is one of the things that's really nice about Cultist Simulator. I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of its writing works, is that it gives you enough to be able to make that connection yourself without ever explicitly telling you. And I also think that's a reason why some people may bounce off the game, because sometimes you really want to be told what to do. I kind of think that's what the Stanley Parable is largely about. But this is probably one of the easier examples for me to draw from in terms of just being able to sort of say, it's like, here's an example where I don't really think there's quite an explicit reference made. Like, there will definitely be some documents which say, this is another name for the stag door. But in this particular case here, I don't think you can find again, I may be proven wrong with the very next document that I open that's knock. But I don't think there's ever a case where the game just comes out and says it. And when you run into serpents inside the vaults, it does talk about the mother's power, and you should be able to sort of draw your inference from that. But you also have another option. Like, you can always just fight the thing. The Tantra describes the Great Hooded Princes, a dynasty of princes of unclear origin, engaging in prayers, sacrifices, and poetry in honor of the Key Serpent, Crossroads Twins, and the Mirror Queen. Nagai in circles, Nagai in circles, Nagai arises from wounds, Nagai spares those who are already harmed. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. So even though my funds were short, probably the biggest reason why was to avoid that from happening. But it does also give me the opportunity to bring in the percussagant. So we'll be fine. We're working at the Institute, and I'll be working at the Institute for a while. But if we fail a challenge on the expedition, that's going to put me in a tight spot, funds-wise. All right, our strength is matchless. The Watchers will almost certainly regret standing against us. Oh, I remember what I was going to do. Let's get Dorothy to charm people, because we're going to have a second notoriety come up before too long. So the room grows close and stale. Time to get up. So I suppose the question is, what do I want to do with my turns? I think probably still going to the Peacock's door is the right call here. The Peacock's door reflects the mirror I hold in my sleep, and the mirror reflects the Peacock's door. Already a sensuous shiver ripples its surface. It aches for fracture, and when it finds that satisfaction, I will enter. All right, and we go straight back to the Institute so we don't run out of money. The great hooded princes are described as having escaped from the history of their death to a history where they yet live. The text claims that there are now 108 of them, but in one of the many instances of twinnedness, before they crossed from their death chronicle, they were only 54. So I'm going to skate Invocation and another Rite of the Mother's Mercy. Right, we've only one more document to read. So the Furious Tantra, as later transcribed by the medium and pyrotechnician Jacob Oliver Top Mugglestone. Tradition has it that he found it seared in the bark of an oak by a lightning. Lock the study door, the work begins. Watchers end. Their blood pumps bright, then dark. They should not have opposed us. We move on. So we've already got Lantern for our next challenge. Connie's causing trouble. We'll have some fascination coming up, so let's see what's going on. All right. So they are looking to take a location from under me. Depending on when this triggers, I may have a little difficulty in going to my next expedition. All right. So again, we don't need any money because of the hidden. If the hidden door doesn't turn out, then I'll need to send extra cash. But right now, I'm trying to build up my resources. The standards of daylight society cannot apply to us, but perhaps we won't emphasize that point. Perhaps we will rely on charm and good humor. I have supplied elegant platitudes about the high principles of our organization. So for 1 minute, we want to avoid generating any vaults. Okay, so unresolved ambiguities are not necessarily something I like, so I'm not too worried about hoarding more of those, but I figure it's a little easier for me to go to the spider's door right now because I have that nice little routine. I'm probably not going to hire anybody to use as a sacrifice for the spider's door, but being able to how do I put it? Like even just using, Saliba or someone to bring in a body. It's a little easier for us to head in there. We always go to the Mallory. We've had a decent enough run in terms of getting the secret histories that we need. So I'm not too, it is costly for me to go to the Peacock door, and it's why I want to, why I kind of want to go a bit deeper. Now, the challenge is that Worm Museum can sometimes give me dread. It can also give me winter influence, which will eventually decay to dread. And if I recall correctly, the Red Church can sometimes give fascination. So I am potentially putting myself in some danger by doing this, but I do also have a fleeting reminiscence to be a get out of jail free card. So I'm not too worried about it. The other thing I noticed is I think the cards say the Peacock's door and the spider's door, but I noticed the map of the Mansis calls it the spider door, the stag door. Anyways, okay, well, as I was saying, light leaks through the cracks. My mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. Last night I visited the Red Church, where the Grail conducts its feasts. The light through stained glass windows was all the spectra of red, and the names of the Grail labored to birth a new desire, which had until today no name at all. I'm sticky with the memory of it, and this morning everything I see is tinted ruby. Got to get rid of that. We will repair the mirror when we can. And we'll head back to the Institute. If you will excuse me for 1 second, I think I see a message. All right. Sorry, I was expecting something from a colleague, but I got something very very silly. Okay. The stanza describes the uses and dangers of anger. It cautions that anger does not always survive transformations. We call upon the watchman who illuminates. We'll almost certainly find this hidden door. So, free turn coming up, basically. I'm trying to think if we're close enough to generating the notoriety to be able to talk to Dorothy. I think we'll wait the 19 seconds before I move on. I'm antsy, though, because I want to take care of the mirror as well. Faint lines in stone, a surface that yields to pressure. We found it. The hidden door moves with a grating shutter and a shower of dust. So this may still be a bit early, but I want to see if I can get my timings down for charm. Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. All right, my rival seeks to... Okay, that's the end. And as always, we need to pile up the funds. Kind of seems like we're recovering, and then we're going to demolish that nice little stack at the end of the expedition. A full moon appears, creatures are reborn, and even a lizard should not be slain, for it could be you. So we have the rite of the rebel striving, yet another new ritual. This rite enacts a teaching of the Forge of Days. The artisan may achieve their highest goal only by destroying their most precious tool. The lionsmith knew this when he shattered his sword before the colonel. So my assistant must destroy a chosen instrument. Okay, this probably isn't right, and I need to think a little bit about it, but I'm wondering if the Forge of Days destroyed their most precious tool. I'm curious if that is a reference to the sun or not. I don't think it is, but it would be intriguing. Okay. Let's see. I'm sure there's probably a really obvious answer to that I wasn't considering, but I'm trying to give voice to some of that stuff as it comes up. The thing is, I always hate saying stuff without certainty, so it requires a little bit of extra effort on my part to let that stuff out. Okay, so I'm just trying to think how I want to handle dreams. There's really nothing for me to do in dream right now. Stag door doesn't give me like the most options, but it is something to do. And there are a couple of things that are useful out of it. Study-wise, we're a little more... it's a little harder to decide what to do. So I think I've got a rough game plan. I'm not going to pursue anything in the study... Oh, actually, sorry, that's not entirely true. I can try leveling up the Grail. I'm going to hope that I have better uses for my study verb for starters, but let's just see here. So, risk my health or a prisoner. Need a glimmering. And when we get the formula voluptuous, practical experimentation, glimmering, and fascination. No, passion. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's a risky set of moves, but it's not completely outrageous. Read sentimental literature. If I proposed to learn anything, I wouldn't be reading this stuff. Okay, well, we're still waiting on the moment. So I think the reason I say it's premature is that there's 30 seconds here, and then I think there's a full minute while we wait for the event to happen. So I suspect the charm business is going to be gone by the time we need it. Standards of daylight society cannot apply to us, but perhaps we won't emphasize that point. Perhaps we'll rely on charm and good humor. I've supplied elegant platitudes about the high principles of our organization. So it turns out I was only off by a little bit. So, Word's End. So this was the 32nd, but oh my goodness, I'm really curious whether or not this is going to cross over in time for the notoriety to get picked up, because it turns out that would have been perfect timing. So the library ceiling collapsed years ago. Many of the books have been reduced to swollen pulp by dripping water. Something must remain. I'm so curious as to whether or not the fraction of a second is enough. I guess I'll learn a little bit about how how it's all structured. Okay, this would be good for a summoning. I want to go a little bit further, though, so we'll take the Ascent of Knives. Edge is okay. It's not quite what I need, though, so anger is implicit in every shape. Of the place my dreams took me last night, this has been written. The ascent is glass, the walls are knives, each step is blood. I did not climb far. The pain was too great. When I woke, that pain remained with me, a pain that I could employ to occult purposes if I hurry. I'm not going to hurry. I'm going to keep going back to the stag door till I find something. I pass the time, I have been inclined to tears, and afterwards inclined to laughter. Meanwhile, the world continues. So I am going to be getting a bunch of books, which may not be the best use. So it may not be, the upgrade may not be the best use for my study verb right now, but I've got the glimmering, and I'm not going to be generating any through commissions for the next little while. So in this case here, I'm going to go for it. But this is going to be sort of an inefficient use of my study verb if we find some books, which usually we do. I don't think there's a lot that don't provide books that are unique locations. Certain words beg to be spoken. It is tempting to spend time in their consideration, tempting and perhaps useful. Okay, so I need to mind my manners as far. Okay, so. Oh, well, actually, it's. No. I was going to say it's possible that. It's possible that it picked up the notoriety and failed, but the notoriety wouldn't be inside here. So yeah, I need to give it a little more runway. Okay, before I read that, let's get Dorothy on the job. Sorry, I just need to sneeze. A portrait of a genially smiling man, dark skin, bright eyes, neither hair nor eyebrows, watches over the ruined library. It is titled Don't Mind Me and signed with an indecipherable serpentine scrawl. The paint is peeling. It watches us with its benevolent smile as we find intact treasures among the swollen books on the shelves. So we've got our percussagant. Pope Clifton made it out. Callagine, hint. And we've got on Matthias and Amethyst Imago, Pursuit. So this is an Aramaic, so we can translate it. We have got the Burning Woman, Frisian, which I can't translate yet. The Silver Book in Fusine, or however that's pronounced. The Known Unknown Tantra by Donald Rumsfeld. The Encircling Tantra. And the Iron Book. So quite a few texts, as it turns out. The obvious step is to find a new location, and in this case, it's rather urgent because I've got sort of pure exposure to all of my summons here. But again, it's the choice that I made. If we get a Season of Ambition, I'm going to be quite upset. This is the season that winds the that's right, that the winds of the wood reverse direction, a time when appetites and mortals both rise. We can get out of this. It's just I need to be precise on the timing. Wisdom is a country, and these are its maps. So I don't want to get too tied up in this, lest I lose my location. Actually, I should still be safe, because even if the Season of Ambition triggers, I believe it's going to need to pick up a renegade before. Well, assuming it isn't ours that gets picked up, I believe it will have to pick up someone first, and then they will try and take the vault. So we should still be okay. Okay, I'm going to take the Trembling Heat for reasons that maybe aren't quite obvious to begin with, but I want to try something. So, Gearby was weeping again. I scooped up his molten tears in my cupped palm. In the dream, my skin peeled and blistered, but only in the dream. Do I want to go to Dream again? Tough call. All right, challenge intuition. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship. So I am interested in what happens with the health. I would rather not lose the health, because that's going to mean funds that I need that get taken away. But, oh, nice. Okay, so we are done the land beyond the forest. That means we're going to be able to move up to unresolved ambiguities. And so all of a sudden, these become a little bit more important for me to properly take care of. All right, the scent of fox lilies inspires ferocious appetites. It is probably fortunate that they grow only at this altitude. The peasants have organized to keep treasure seekers away, but some treasure seekers fall prey to lily hungers. Their own treasures lie among their bones, and so the cycle continues. So I'll bring the Percussigan and Callagine. They're sort of the canonical expedition team for me. But I am going to try and bring the hint in. It's going to be a tough call. It's going to be a tough one, though, because being able to juggle around the timing is time is short, is what I'm trying to say. The path through the mountains to the high meadow will be hard. The peasants of the mountains will seek to drive us away. If we return home safe, we may struggle to shake off the visions of the place. Expedition. Well, we don't need to read the square brackets. Okay, so it turns out it was my turn to be ambitious. Okay, so now the kind of expiry of the hint is suddenly a more it's a bit of a more dangerous event. Fortunately, we should be able to add them. All right. So we've got the high passes, which forge or winter. Watchers, well, we'll handle those because of our high edge. And then finally, the fifth eye curse. So lots of winter is probably what we need here, but there is a question as to whether or not I'm going to be able to put enough winter in place. So we'll see where it goes. I have to keep the hint in here, though, just to keep myself safe. Well, okay, there are other ways of me handling it, but it's most convenient for me to handle it through the hint. Optimism is the spice which saves. Okay, so now I need to start thinking about what I want to do with my talk verb. Well, I guess first things first, let's get Valsine to do a repair job. We can begin to repair this, but it will take at least a bronze Spintrea to purchase the necessary materials. So we didn't have someone to eat, so I cannot consume the thoughts of the living mind. If I cannot consume the thoughts of a living mind, my need will turn in upon itself. All right, so Normally I'd like to be earning a little bit more money, but I do want to try something here. So let's take our sunset right. Oh, that might still work. So if I take the formula voluptuous and then add Neville. Excellent. Summon one of the name emanations of the Red Grail. Azim may enter only where the Grail's power is strong, and it will choose to enter only when invoked with Forge, with which it is flirted so often. So some of you kind of know why I'm doing this, but I wasn't 100% sure if that Forge influence was enough. I think it's probably not a bad idea for me to take the Trembling Heat, because there is the danger that Azim gets loose, and it's just as easy for me to grab another. Gearby was weeping again. I scooped up his molten tears in my cupped palm. In the dream, my skin peeled and blistered, but only in the dream. Okay, and practical experimentation. So in this case, we will risk our health. I'm going to leave the dream slot open for now. Okay, the Explorer's Road. We are practical souls, strong in Forge. We'll probably be fine. So the reason why I can't add Winter right now is that this will only give us 5 for the current expedition, and I really can't afford to be losing too much money on this. So what we will do is we will add Laidlaw, and this will give us the Forge that we need. Oh, conveniently, Laidlaw has already got a Winter Scar, so that'll help us out later on with the Fifth Eye Curse. I mean, practically, we'll probably just wind up adding 2 Winter Followers. But for the time being, I'm going to need to give up a little bit of tempo to be able to add another funds, but then I'm going to be able to regain some of that because I already have enough to deal with the Watchers. Although I'll confess, the decision not to use the dream slot doesn't seem to make a lot of sense right now. Light of the Mantis dims in me. I am less than I was. I need conversation. I must have those particular conversations. There it is. Is that it? Okay, Spintrea for the repair. And let's see what Azim's response is. So many rich aromas, like a feast. Like a feast upon the air. But first and mostly blood. Change me, change me, change me harder. Now my turn. So one of the biggest advantages to us right now with Azim is the tutor aspect, and in particular, Azim is a Frisian speaker. So this is the last language that I haven't been able to translate. And of course, this is going to really crack things open as far as lore is concerned. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books that I unlock with Azim, and then of course we add that to the 5 that we already have. So 10 books in total. We're definitely going to be locking up the study verb for a while. Now, one of the drawbacks is when you think about it, our block hasn't really been lore for a while now. Our block has really been a bit more about certain resources that we have available to us. Like, I suppose in the grand scheme of things, Ichor Vitreous isn't really all that strong. Maybe we could make the painting. I think the painting's worth 8. Yeah. Like, we're kind of close to where we could do an Ascension, but not super reliably. But yeah. All I'm trying to say is that lore is not necessarily where we're really falling behind here. It's actually tools that are the thing I need the most. But anyways, there is Azim. Good work, Neville. And let's go back to the Institute. Now I understand. All right, so the mirror is repaired, shines again as it did once before. So I think if I talk with Azim, I'm not going to be able to learn the language. I believe I need to do that with the study verb. So as always, the question is, what do I want to do with my talk verb? But before I do that, I was talking about how I wanted to try and take... Okay, so first thing I'll do is add the funds, because there's the potential that the funds get pulled out from the... Oh yeah, actually I should double check too. So it's heart or winter. Well, we already have the heart with the percussivant, so it makes more sense for me to bring Dorothy or Clovette. That way we don't risk someone. All right. If I wanted the money, I could probably send Enid or Neville out on a burglary mission. Am I really in that much need, though? Sorry, I know some of these pauses don't always work for everyone, but I'm trying to decide what kind of the best little loop for a quick ascension might be. Not that I'm like looking to rush, but I know progress is something that people like to see. So Saliba and Rhaenyra will give me people to feed to the door. Dorothy and Clovette will mop up my misdeeds. Try to remember what the advantage of just straight up murdering someone is, because that's basically what happens with your Winter and Edge followers. Forge helps you repair things. You know what? Neville, could you go steal something for me, please? My disciple can probably use their talents to harvest treasures from the unsuspecting. And Season of Despair. Or Season of... Yeah, Despair, Dread, one of the two. Despair. Okay, so Peacock Door. In my dreams I know the path through the glass garden to the Peacock's Door, the most admirable of doors, the door which shines like a mirror. Perhaps with the right resources I can pass it. And my lover and I contend in the spaces above and beneath the flesh. I must match their intensity. If I didn't want to hang out with them, I suppose I could have sent them on a burglary mission. I've increased my mastery of the succulent lore, which we call by its aspect Grail. So that was one of the reasons why... I mean, it was way too cautious to just leave the dream slot open, but there was the possibility of the health, and then realizing that I had the Wildering Mirror made me say, it's not the end of the world if I get an injury. So, the original plan was going to be to take the Formula Voluptuous and upgrade it. Big question about that is, like, what does it get me? Why do I want to do that? And I don't have a good answer for that. So, excuse me, got to talk to Azim first. Study Frisian with a tutor. Frisian, the great mother's tongue, of course. If you have enough Greek, I guarantee that the experience of learning Frisian will be very pleasant. My Greek will serve as a foundation. I'll learn everything I can. Watchers will almost certainly regret standing against us. So again, I'm not as concerned with spending money or adding another follower for the time being. Enid prefers to close her eyes rather than look at me. She says it hurts to look. She says it with such longing that I can't take offense. Back to the Institute. We're slowly rebuilding my savings, but I suspect we're gonna see them demolished as the expeditions go by. Their blood pumps bright, then dark. They should not have opposed us. We move on. Okay, another free turn, so good news for us. Okay, well, clearly I don't want the fascination. Now, I've got this hypothesis, and I don't really think it holds up to scrutiny. But I've always sort of figured that there's the alternating, like what the top secret history, I think. Okay, I kind of don't think it because I suspect there are counterexamples even in my own playthroughs, but for some reason the most effective kind of voodoo I've tried is to alternate. So the last time we saw Vagabond's map, Vagabond's map was in the Worm Museum. So in principle, the next one that we see, which may not be this time around, would be in the Red Church. and I'm going to carry on with it. The real drawback is between episodes, I can never remember what the previous one was, but that's the hypothesis I'm working with until I see otherwise, and then I'll just find some other nonsense. Favor from authority is not too bad. I've learned something that will earn me a favor once only. Each of the stained glass windows of the Red Church is devoted to a distinct appetite, and the scenes they show are from life. Last night, in one of the uglier windows, I saw the appetites of a certain public figure satisfied in private. I know he won't want this information made public. Perhaps he will show me some consideration. Sorry for the yawning. I'm actually feeling surprisingly tired. I'm pretty much recording this the second I finished work, which was a draining one. So, Herodotus tells a wild story of a pharaoh who discovered the Frisian language. Herodotus tells a wild story of a pharaoh who discovered the Frisian language was the first spoken by humans. He was wrong, of course. It was Vac, but everyone enjoys the story. Okay. So I'm going to have to move my books up, I think. Well, yeah, I suppose it makes sense because I have all the languages now. I'll figure out an order for these a bit later. So in this case, I'm just adding Azim because I can. It's not too... There's no real reason behind it. Oh, but I should... Okay, actually, sorry. If I'm going to be reading books, I should be thinking about what I need. So I suppose Lantern is the most aligned with my current goals. I definitely think... So even though those won't necessarily give me the most, I think I'm going to stick with them anyway. We've got some Forge books. So Forge is the lore that I'm sort of weakest at. Should probably follow that up with Secret Histories because we're doing okay for locations now, but we're probably going to run out before too long. I'm going to put a slight priority to Knock for the simple reason that Grail, I already have what can be a level up. Knock, I don't. Again, I can kind of subvert anything, but that's not really how I want to do it. So yeah, basically the logic here, Lantern is most directly associated with my desire for enlightenment. Forge is the lore that I'm weakest in. Secret Histories has practical utility of giving me the thing that I actually want, which is edge tools. Knock is the lore that is sort of the next most precious to me. If I can get a second formula Ophidian, then I'm in the same place as Grail, and then Grail, just sort of by process of elimination, is at the end. So, the known unknown Tantra. Trying to think if I really want to keep going back to the Mansis. Probably not for now. My follower has returned with their haul. Okay, so we've got a couple jumbles to sell at Oriflamme's if we want. And the trick to this is I need to head off to I need to get rid of the notoriety, and then I need to get rid of the notoriety. So the burglary is not a very consistent way of making money. It's more one of those, okay, I have an opportunity kind of things. Not everyone is sympathetic to our aims, but if we have problems with our reputation, our disciple can probably smooth them over. The likelihood of me selling these jumbles anytime soon is pretty remote because we are going to want to try and preserve our summons for as long as possible. With enough heart aspect, we carry enough heart aspect to quell the curse. Probably. Clovet will bring us over the edge. We are strong enough in heart to almost be entirely secure against this curse. And fascination, so I do kind of want to mind my manners on... well, we do have the fleeting reminiscence, but I want to mind my manners on the types of scary books that I read. We might translate the Concursive Diaries before reading... The curse shrivels. Our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. So we will translate our first Frisian work. The Frisians worshipped the Great Mother, who we call the Grail. Theirs was the land in which the Sisterhood of the Knot was born, and this is the tongue in which the Thunderskin pleaded at his ascension. So the concursive diaries, the diaries of the explorer and murderer Lars Westergen. He's unhelpfully translated them into Frisian for privacy. I don't think I ever actually read the text for this. So Carlos Garcia Sauri, the ecstatic mystic of the Pyrenees, was known to recite this in 3 languages, though he had never visited the subcontinent. I don't know if it had a translation before, but I kind of blew it there. Obviously, I'm going to lose some summons shortly after this event. There's not too much that I need to worry about, although we are back to a situation where the hint may become a little bit of a liability. We'll send our charm. Oh, definitely need to do our charm again. So another Season of Visions, which basically translates to a free turn for us. The nourishment of blossoms. We've dipped claws in ammonia and bound them to our faces to deaden the foxlily's scent. Even so, our heads swim, our bodies respond to a half-dozen contradictory desires. Here are the bones we sought. Loot them and get out. So 30 seconds, we should be fine to read these works now. So the Known Unknown Tantra describes a journey to the white door of the Mansis, beyond which speech ceases. It describes a mantra which can be used at the right place and the right time to achieve that door. So again, in terms of meaning for lore and such, there's a couple of details. So it already directly refers to directly to the white door. Well, we have a location, the white door, but of course, if you haven't encountered the white door before, this may be something that you have to infer from seeing the map of the Mansis. More importantly, when it describes a mantra which can be used at the right place and right time to achieve that door, presumably here we would be getting the some level of lore that would actually move up. I guess it's a little easier to say because I think Lantern Light will send you everywhere, but that's kind of one of this to me. I actually suspect I don't have this directly from the developers, but I have a suspicion that maybe those were originally intended to be sort of the quote-unquote tutorial for the game. Obviously, there's a little bit more that has been added to the game in terms of like the square brackets, and I think that probably works. I think there's some value in making people work for what they do, particularly in a game like this where so much of the enjoyment kind of comes from sort of picking away at it and seeing how things go. But I also think it's fair to say that for some people that they will very much want to enjoy this kind of game, but because it's not necessarily something that they've encountered before. I mean, let's face it, what is our comparable experience to Cultist Simulator before playing it? But someone who's maybe not quite at the first glance able to quite get what's going on, if they can just get that little nudge to sort of understand where things are going, I really think those square brackets help out quite a bit in that regard. So for me, I think they were the right call. The Foxlilies are white as cave skin, white as frost, white as unsullied sheets. It is hard to look away. We will close our eyes and struggle away with our treasures. So I don't think we get a lot of edge treasures, but let's see. So good work, Azim. Good work, Laidlaw. Also Clovette. I haven't forgotten you. Good work, Hint. Good work, Callaghan. Good work, Percussagant. Okay, Wolf Snow. That's definitely not edge. Far too cold to ever melt in anything but the hottest noonday sun. It will very gradually consume human flesh. How long are we talking? The Ichor Vitreous, a pale and watchful fluid that can be gathered sometimes when the door in the eye is opened. And Refulgan. So lots of Lantern this time around, which is not unwelcome, but not the most important thing for me right now. You know what? I was going to say, I mean, it's a good time to wrap up here. I was originally going to say I'll just deal with all of this later, but the one thing I know I'm not going to need is the land beyond the forest. So let's unpack one of these unresolved ambiguities. The Rending Mountains, it has been said, tear the flesh of history. It has generally only been said by people like Christopher Alopoli, but still, they are a good region to find the places that daylight history does not recognize. And again, 3,000 miles away from the wreck of the oldest empires. And on that note, I think I am going to call it here. As always, I do appreciate you watching. If I recall correctly, this is the last episode that will air before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, or otherwise seasonal greetings to those of you that choose to mark it. Thank you very much for, well, I know I've said thank you for watching, but this year has been a neat one as far as the channel is concerned. Certainly the Cultist Simulator was a bit of an experiment, and it definitely seems to be something that people appreciate. And I know these endings wind up being a bit long, but I never want to take that for granted, so thank you. And of course, I would not be a YouTuber if I did not ask for your support, either in the form of a subscription if you haven't done that already. Likes are always appreciated. I suppose dislikes are informative too. But as I say, an hour-long video, it's kind of unlikely people at the end are going to dislike it. It's usually earlier on when they'll do that. And of course, I've really appreciated your comments. It's helped me to kind of nudge things to what I think people would like from me. And I try to take the feedback on board where I can. But until next time, I hope you have a good one, and we will see you in the next video.